Hello everyone, my name is Brian and welcome back to Barb's Basement. So this week in the basement we're going to be discussing Star Wars Legacy issue number 9. If you aren't caught up with the latest, make sure you check out the playlist link below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you want more Legends content from this basement captive. So this week we get a peek into the grim reality for those who are unfortunate enough to get caught by the one Sith. In what was once a Jedi temple, Hosk is being interrogated by none other than Darth Maladi, the head of Sith Imperial intelligence. Much like Palpatine in the new canon, the Sith have decided to desecrate what is left of the Jedi legacy by building their own temple on top of the ruins of the Jedi. At this point, the temple could just as easily be a nexus in the dark side just like it would be in the light. The temple has really been through some dark days. Inside the temple, Maladi is torturing Hosk, desperate to get any information out of him that she can. The last time we saw Hosk, he was being handed over to bounty hunters so that Cade and company could get the bounty on the head of the Jedi. It was truly one of the darker moments from the series, with Cade being forced to turn a Jedi over to conceal his own past as a Jedi himself. Despite the fact that Hosk was betrayed by Cade, he still fights back against Maladi. Unfortunately for Cade, his mental fortitude was never his strong suit. Maladi immediately breaks his will. Maladi, being a Sith Lord, doesn't understand Hosk's attempts at covering Cade's tracks. He betrayed Hosk, and for all Cade knew, left him for dead. Hosk knows the Sith wouldn't have kept him alive this long for no reason. If the Sith wanted to know where Cade was, it was only for dark purposes. The Sith seek him, and that's enough for him to know. Maladi, not impressed with the Bothan's attempts at resistance, sicks her torture droids on him, and he is already weakened. Hosk spills the proverbial force beans. Not only does he give away where they found him, who his companions are, but he also speculates that he thinks Cade was a Jedi himself, squeezing a lemon directly into the wound. Now this next panel really just bums me out. Hosk is completely broken down. He has been betrayed by potentially one of the only Jedi he's seen in 7 years, one of his brothers in the Force. He is for all intents and purposes completely and totally alone. Maladi commands that he is to offer no further resistance to any one Sith going forward. Hosk simply says, yes. What a fucking bummer. In the chambers, Moff Calixte is forced to watch the Sith at work. Having seen enough, she just wants to cut right to the meat of the matter. She wants to know why she's been summoned by the Dark Lady of the Sith. Calixte overheard the entire exchange, but is still confused by the importance of the mark. He is merely a bounty hunter. Even with Jedi training, he's simply a bounty hunter. No former Jedi turned bounty hunter could possibly pose a risk to the Sith Empire. Maladi, being overly loyal to Krayt, dismisses Calixte's question. It is none of her concern why Krayt wills anything. She simply needs to obey. This isn't Calixte's first space rodeo. She knows how to finesse information out of beings, even one as powerful as Maladi. She argues that she wouldn't be able to properly perform her duties if she doesn't understand the full scope of the mission's importance. And this panel just cracks me up for some reason. I can't explain why. Finally, Maladi relents. The Sith believe what we already know. Cade is more than likely a Skywalker. And a Skywalker out in the wild will be very, very bad for the Sith Empire. Hence the secrecy and the urgency behind the mission. Maladi commands Calixte to deploy all of her Imperial spies. None of the spies are to be informed of Cade's heritage. Now, as we all know, the One Sith are meant to be extremely loyal to Krayt. His will is their life. He is an omniscient being, the embodiment of the dark side, yada yada yada. Regular cult stuff. Maladi can't help herself. She has to know why Krayt would want Skywalker alive. After all, their entire goal was the complete and total destruction of the Jedi. What could Krayt possibly want with Cole Skywalker's son? After their meeting, Calixte is right back to scheming with her lover Morlish Veed. Despite being warned to tell no one of the true reasoning or the importance of her mission, she immediately tells Veed all of the details. Veed may be a brute, but he is no dummy. He sees their opening at the throat of the Sith. He knows that Skywalker would be a valuable asset or pawn to the Moff Council. Calixte agrees, but notes that it would be an extremely difficult heist to pull off. Maladi has replaced all of Calixte's agents with her own, and did so the moment the Sith took over the Empire. Maladi's agent of choice is actually a Force-sensitive man named Jor Torlin. Although he wasn't powerful enough in the Force to become a Sith, he was still fiercely loyal to their cause. He was one of the Sith's most active agents even before they revealed themselves to the galaxy at large during the Imperial War with the GA. This is actually one of those things that I love the most about Legacy and storytelling overall, a cohesive, planned out narrative. A little side note for y'all, the One Sith were actually active during Luke's lifetime, going so far as to meet with Lumaya decades before Legacy started. For more info on this, go read Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi, although I would not recommend Fate of the Jedi. Calixte has her own ace, a retired Imperial agent by the name of Morgan Cord, a field operative who had been inactive for nearly 20 years, around the time the Sith had joined the war effort. Therefore, the Sith were unaware of her existence. Even better for Calixte, she knows how to contact her. The The Sith spies will greatly outnumber them off councils, but they will all be heading to Sirocco, where Cade and the crew last were seen, but they would no longer be there. They would have hightailed it long ago. This gave Calixte and Veed the advantage. The Wheel, a gambling colony located in the Besh Gorgon system in the Mid-Rim that dates well back into the Old Republic, and had persisted throughout the Empire's rule after the fall of the Republic by remaining staunchly neutral in all disputes. If you want more info on the Wheel, make sure you go back and read the Republic comic books, another series written by none other than John Ostrander. The current owner of the Wheel is Pol Tem. He stays true to the Wheel's original mission, neutrality at all costs. He allows no weapons on his space station outside of his own security. By the very nature of such an operation, it makes for the perfect meeting ground for spies, bounty hunters, and any other unsavory characters. For this reason, Calixte keeps constant tabs on their operations. She ran a match scan and found Cade, or at least a person who is carrying Cade's bounty hunter ID, and a ship that matches the description of the Minok. They found him. They found Cade Skywalker, and better yet, they were the only ones who knew. After a quick embrace and a masturbatory moment, recognizing their own genius, Calixte tells Veed that she has work to do. If they are to finally get Morlish on the throne, she has to be the first one to find Cade. He may not look like much, but he is still a Skywalker. He may be all the Jedi need to rally the remaining numbers. Even worse, if he allies himself and the Jedi Order with the Fel Empire, it could undo everything they've worked so hard to accomplish. If it was up to her, she would kill him or turn him. The Empire is fully aware of the complicated history the Skywalker family has, so it is priority number one that they find him first. Meanwhile, back in Fel's Empire, Roan's strained rule is tested by his disobedient Imperial Knights. Antares and Ganner had disobeyed their Emperor's explicit orders not to go after Marcia Fel. In doing so, they not only exposed Cade's existence to the Sith, they also more than likely tracked him back to Bastion. Krayt already knows that Fel has retaken the former Imperial homeworld. On top of that, Cade was wise enough to hunt for the homing beacons the Empire had placed on his ship. The Empire has no idea where Cade may have gone. If the Sith find him, it could be the doom of the Fel dynasty. Luckily for Roan, Bastion is one of the most heavily fortified systems in the galaxy. Krayt knows that he couldn't risk committing an all-out assault. Doing so would not only destroy the fleet of the Fel, it would also destroy Krayt's fleet, weakening his grip on the galaxy's throat. For now, they are functionally at a stalemate. But Krayt, armed with this knowledge, would make it increasingly difficult for Roan to bring in more troops who are loyal to the true Emperor, while Krayt can freely and openly recruit throughout the galaxy. Roan's options are quickly being exhausted. The Empire needs allies, and the Jedi are unlikely to help out an Empire that had just fought a brutal war against them. This is not the time for the Knights to act carelessly. Draco and Ganner, however, are ready to receive whatever punishment the Emperor deems necessary. Luckily for them, he simply plans to give them a medal for their heroic deeds. The Imperial Knights are getting off exceptionally easy. Luckily for them, no one was around to hear when Roan gave the orders. If he were to punish the Knights now, it would more than likely make him look like a monster, so he's decided to retroactively approve their mission. After all, it would only make him look bad to punish the people who had saved his daughter. Some in the Empire may have seen Fel's soft heart as a bad thing, but many of the Imperial citizens will only grow more fond of the Emperor's human flaws. In the end, the Knights will not go unpunished. They will be assigned to the most dangerous of missions. Not only that, Draco will never be allowed to marry Marcia, dashing Draco's romantic gesture. They will have no time to rest. The moment the medal ceremony is over, the Knights will be sent to protect the negotiator, speaking on the Emperor's behalf, Captain Bovark. Captain Bovark will be meeting with the very prestigious GA Admiral Gar Stasi to discuss an alliance. If anything happens to Bovark, it would be in the best interest of the Knights if they were already dead before the Emperor gets wind of it. Cut to the Wheel, the Switzerland of Star Wars. As Gar Stasi and Bovark sit at their negotiation table, Tem breaks down the rules of the space station. No weapons, no violence, and complete and total privacy for all parties involved. Stasi is already tired of the formalities. All parties had already agreed to the terms before they had actually arrived. And if the Sith catch wind of the meeting, the House rules will no longer apply. Tem makes the very wise decision to take his leave, and an ignorant man in this situation is a wise man. Stasi is so full of contempt for the Fel dynasty that he can barely contain his hatred. A war will do that to you. Despite Bovark's attempts to play to any vanity he may have about his fighting retreat from Kamos. Now, regardless of everything that happened between the Fel Empire and the GA, Gar is still a legendary figure even within the Empire. To them, it's insane that Gar has been able to keep the fleet afloat over the past 7 years. They basically have like a roaming capital for the GA. Now, Gar knows what he has been doing, and he's aware that Roan is just as desperate for supplies as he is. The only thing he doesn't know is why Roan would call such a meeting in the first place. Gar is blown away and insulted by the Emperor's proposal. An alliance between the GA and the very Empire that sought to wipe them out sounds ridiculous. The captain lets Gar in on the Empire's dirty little secret. It was actually the Sith that ignited the war in the first place, by sabotaging the Ossus project. Gar doesn't buy it. Even if it was in the Sith's hands, it surely was still at the command of the Emperor. Now the captain admits that the infallible Emperor was actually unaware of the machinations of the Sith until after the war had already begun. The Sith had struck a secret deal with Morlish Veed, a deal that Fel knew nothing about until it was already way too late. Not only does Fel want to ally himself with his former enemy, he also is too stupid to see this manipulation, hardly giving Gar any encouragement to ally with such a man. Gar is primed and ready to storm out. Before he can make it out of the room, the captain drops a bombshell. The Emperor has retaken Bastion.
Gentlemen, you have my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
This stops Gar in his tracks. He is fully aware of the advantage such a system would give the GA if they were to join forces. The pair do indeed have much to discuss, as Admiral Stasi takes his seat back at the negotiation table. Meanwhile, outside the conference room, Draco and Ganner are impatiently waiting as the GA guards stare down the Imperial Knights. Draco and Ganner can feel the anxiety running through the nervous men. They more than likely have a hair trigger. Luckily for the Knights, they were both able to sneak their lightsabers onto the wheel. The guardsmen were more than likely able to do the same with their weapons. Draco won't let anything happen. They will earn back the Emperor's trust. Elsewhere in the seedy underbelly of the wheel, Jor Torlin, the Sith assassin, is meeting with an informant. Hako did his duty and tailed Cade for as long as he could. Unfortunately for Jor and the Sith Empire, Cade and crew had already departed the wheel, and Hako had absolutely no idea how to find out where they were headed. Just as Hako scurries off to try and dig up as much info as he can, a gang of spice heads descend upon the Sith spy. Obviously, Jor absolutely mops the floor with them. You almost feel bad for them in a way. Just as Torlin is getting ready to finish their beating, one gets the jump on him, cracking him over the skull with a metal pipe. One of the gangsters blurts out he doesn't care what that woman said, he's going to ice pick this prick.
What's the matter? You scared? Now stand back, I gotta practice my stabbing.
Just before he can give Torlin a new hole, Morgan Cord kicks him right in the teeth. Man, that is an unpleasant image. Before any words can be exchanged between the two Imperial agents, they had to deal with the ruffians that Morgan had sicked upon Torlin. They handedly trounced the spice heads in a manner only an Imperial agent could. As the duo finished breaking bones and cracking teeth, Torlin tells Morgan he didn't need any help in the first place. Not only that, but it is clear that he had set up this little impromptu assault, and he is understandably not very happy about it. He quickly turns on Morgan, pouncing at her neck with murderous intent. Jor Torlin is a different breed of Imperial agent. He was a Sith prospect, making him more vicious and deadly than others. Morgan does her best to calm down the brute. She tells him that she had to establish contact with him somehow. She was sent out to work alongside him. Alas, Sith cannot be reasoned with. He's out for the kill. He's a blunt instrument. She is a dagger. She is 2 steps ahead of him and assaults his senses with a nerve agent, knocking him out before he can have the chance to strangle her to death. As she helps Torlin to his feet, she laments the fact that she ever gave up this sort of business. So that's actually going to wrap up this week's issue of Star Wars Legacy. It's a bit of a filler issue, but it still has some good world building and gives us a little peek into the deeper struggles of the galaxy. Krayt's Sith Empire doesn't have as much of a stranglehold over the galaxy as Palpatine's Empire did, and that paved the way for Fel and the GA to form an alliance that could actually challenge for the fate of the galaxy, something that the Rebel Alliance was unable to do for decades, and was a victory that was very narrowly eked out in the end. If you enjoyed the content, consider giving the video a like, and maybe subscribe to the channel. Until next time, I'll still be stuck here in Barb's basement.